Welcome to this brief R tutorial on visualizing data. So we're going to talk about four commands, I guess three rather, that are really useful for beginning to plot your data. And the point to remember is that the command that you use is really going to depend on the kinds of variables that you're looking at. So in this tutorial, we're going to talk about two distinct kinds of plots. First, we're going to talk about ways to visualize your data if you're only looking at one variable at a time. And representations that look like histograms are going to be especially useful here. Now, the latter two types of visualizations that we're going to talk about are ways to look at more than one variable at a time. So the plot command here is going to be really useful if we are creating a scatter plot. And the box plot is going to be really useful for looking at the relationship between one categorical and a quantitative variable. So in order to get started, let's go ahead and bring up R. And I'm again going to use the iris dataset. So when I load that and look at the beginning, I can see that there are four variables that are quantitative and one that is categorical. So let's say that I'm interested in examining the sepal width. One thing I might be interested in is how that variable is distributed. So the command I'm going to want there is hist. So this is going to allow me to create a histogram. So similar to other operations we've done, I'm going to type in the name of the dataset first and then a $sign to refer to a specific variable, and then type in the name of the variable. And again, this is case sensitive. So when I run this command, I can see the histogram of this variable. Now, this looks fairly normally distributed. It looks like the mean might be around 3. The most common sepal length looks like it's just under 3. And because this is a histogram, remember that the x-axis is going to tell us the various sepal widths, and then the y-axis is going to be the frequency of each of these sort of bins. So for example, it looks like there are maybe 35 or so observations that are in this neighborhood that's kind of less than 3. So if we're interested in creating a visualization of categorical data, we're instead going to use the plot command. Now, this is going to create something that's a lot like a histogram, but here we're using categorical data. So, for example, I might be interested in looking at the number of each of these types of species in the data set. So here, I'm just going to say plot, and then the name of the variable, species. So here, this plot isn't especially exciting because in this data set, there's equal representation of each of these three types of flowers. There are 50 observations from Setosa, 50 observations from versicolor, 50 from virginica. So next, let's say that we're interested in looking at the relationship between two variables. Now, it turns out the plot command is also going to be useful for us here. So let's say we're interested in the relationship between sepal length and petal length. Now, the kind of visualization we're going to want for that sort of data, i.e. looking at two quantitative variables, is going to be a scatter plot. So in order to create one of those, we need the plot command, and then we're going to say the name of our data set, and then $sign. And then first we're going to type in the name of the variable that we want on the x-axis. So here I might plot sepal length on the x-axis and petal length on the y-axis. So here I just need to type in petal length, make sure I get the cases right. And when I execute this command, I can see a scatter plot here at the right. Again, sepal length is on the x-axis, petal length is on the y. So in general, it looks like flowers that have longer sepal lengths also have longer petal lengths. Now, as a final sort of visualization here, we might be interested in plotting a quantitative variable against a categorical variable. Now, one way to do that is if we're interested in kind of splitting up the quantitative variable so that we have the categorical one on the x-axis. The kind of plot that we're going to be interested in creating is a box plot. So here we're going to use the box plot command, and I'm going to put the I'm actually going to put the petal length, which is what I'm going to want on the y-axis first, and then I'm going to use this tilde symbol, and then I will list the variable that I want on the x-axis. So here, my categorical variable is species, and that's the thing that I'm going to want on the x, so I put that second after this tilde, and put the variable that I want on the y-axis here. So when I execute this command, I'm going to get 3 side-by-side box plots, where again the categorical variable is on the x-axis. So we can see here from this plot that in general the Setosa plants have much shorter petal length than the versicolor plants, which also have shorter petal length than the Virginica plants, etc. So going back to our slide here, we talked about these really just 3 commands. So remember that the hist command and the plot command are going to be useful for looking at one variable at a time, and you need to sort out whether that variable is quantitative or categorical. The plot command is also useful for creating scatter plots, where the first variable we're going to list on the variable that we want on the x-axis, and then a comma, and then the variable we want on the y-axis. And then the box plot command is going to be really useful in order to create a plot like this one, where we put the categorical variable on the x-axis and the quantitative one on the y.